Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's 6 o'clock on the nose, and we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk for the roll call, please. Logan.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present.
Is there any review of revisions or deletions to the agenda tonight? Seeing and hearing none, we've got a motion moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor MacArthur. Be it resolved that City Council approves the agenda as printed. Anybody opposed to that motion? Seeing none, hearing none, consider that motion carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature?
We do have one this evening. Councillor LaFerrier declared a conflict of pecuniary interest related to Section 9A, Whiskey Jack Beer Company Limited, land lease agreement and pergola presentation, as the son owns and operates Sante's Bar and Grill. Okay,
thank you. Anybody else at this point? Verbally? No. So moving on to item number 6, the review and adoption of the council minutes. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Foley, second by Councillor LaFerrier. Be resolved that City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular meeting of council that was held on June the 1st, 2021. So, any comments on those set of minutes? Anybody opposed to that motion? Seeing none, we'll consider that motion carried. Tonight we have some public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. And the first one we'll deal with is scheduled tonight is for a zoning bylaw amendment application. And the Planning Act requires that a public meeting be held before council decides whether to pass a bylaw adopting a proposed amendment. And the public meeting serves two purposes. First, to present to the council and the public the details and background to the proposed amendment. And second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before decisions made by council. So I now declare the meeting to be open and to be a public meeting pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. And the zoning bylaw amendment application to be heard this evening is application ZBA 2021-04. The owner is Vision Property Management. The subject land is 495 and 497 Ferguson Avenue, and the purpose of the application is to amend the provisions of the high density residential exception 14 zone to permit a maximum of 26 units between the two buildings. So Jennifer Pye will make the presentation, and then we'll open up for questions.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Ken. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Brad. Okay, so the purpose of the application is to amend the provisions of the high density residential exception 14 zone to recognize 26 units between the two buildings, where the current zoning permits a maximum of 22 units. So the 4 additional units are existing and no new units will be created. There are 13 units in both 495 and 497 Ferguson Avenue, and the additional units are a result of a reconfiguration of the floor plans after submission of the building permit application. The subject properties are shown here in blue diagonal lines. 495 Ferguson is the property to the south, and 497 Ferguson is the property to the north along Broadway Street. And then this is just an aerial image of the same area. So the next few slides are photos of the property that were taken during the site visit. So this photo was taken from across Ferguson Avenue, and it looks at the front of the building. And then this one here is just the opposite angle from across Ferguson and up Broadway, looking at the front and north sides of the building. And this one was taken from behind the bowling alley, and it looks north into the parking lot and at the back of the building. And just for context, you can see the Leisure Inn sort of in the background there. And this photo was taken from in front of the LCBO, looking at the parking area and at the rear of the building. So property is designated town centers in the City of Temiskaming Shore's official plan. The official plan recognizes Haileybury's town center as providing services to a local market within a largely residential setting. And it states that retail, personal and service commercial uses, residential and public service uses will be permitted. And there is an error on this slide actually. So the official plan actually states that residential uses will include standalone and upper story dwellings, not just upper story dwellings is what is suggested here. This property is currently zoned high density residential exception 14, with the purpose of the exception being to permit a maximum of 22 dwelling units between the two buildings and to recognize a maximum height of 14.23 meters for the building. And then the proposed zoning is just to amend the provisions of that exception 14 zone to permit a maximum of 26 dwelling units between the two buildings. So the original zoning bylaw amendment for this property was passed in 2012, and that original amendment allowed up to 19 units between the buildings. And the initial building permit was issued based on this amendment. A subsequent amendment was passed in 2014 to increase the number of units to 22, which is what the current zoning allows. So during construction, the unit configuration was changed to increase the number of units to 26. However, the zoning was not amended at that time. The applicant is seeking to legalize the existing 26 units between the buildings from a zoning perspective. So notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and the application was also circulated to city staff with no concerns or objections being noted. No comments or concerns have been received from external agencies or members of the public as of the date of this presentation. And next steps for this application will be to bring the necessary reports and draft bylaw for council's consideration at the July 7th regular meeting.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there any comments or questions from the applicant tonight? I don't believe he's on the line. Is there any written comments that we've received at all, Jennifer?
No comments have been received to date.
Okay. Questions and comments from the members of the public? Anybody on the line? YouTube
Not
or
seeing any
Facebook?
American.
Nothing at all. So, questions from council concerns? Councilor LaFerrier, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. My question is, like, how did it happen? Like, the construction was done, a couple of years back now. I'm just wondering if the building permit was for 22, how does it get to 26 and us be in a position now where it's all built? It's not like we have much choice to make the changes. I'm just wondering, what our process is and how we can ensure that this is done prior to the builds being done and retroactively having to take things down if it wasn't to pass. I'm just thinking that we need to have some kind of policy or procedure in place that really protects, us and the developer who was putting this into place. Because if something was to happen and it's not legal to begin with, I just have a few concerns there.
Were these renovations actually done? I wonder, since the time it was actually completed, and would there been issued a building permit to do the renovations? Jennifer, you want to answer a couple questions there?
Yeah, so my understanding is that there hasn't been any construction done since occupancy was issued for this building. There's no indication that there's been any additional construction after that point.
So you think when we were in to give you the occupancy permit, we would have known how many units were in the building. So we need some kind of policy change there somewhere that we don't issue the occupancy permit until we know exactly whether it's been built according to the plans. So, Mike, you had a comment too?
I just wondered if this the owner, Vision Property Development and Management Inc. Do they own other properties in Temiskaming Shores? Like, do they have other buildings that they rent out, or?
I believe this is the only one in Temiskaming Shores. They have another one in Englehart.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
any other questions, comments? Maybe before we actually bring this back to the next council meeting, we can find out what was happening during the occupancy permit process or how this got missed somehow. So we talk to Mike or somebody there and sort that out. So if there's no other comments, I'll declare this portion of the public meeting to be closed and advise the council will give due consideration to any questions and comments tonight, and an administrative report will be brought before council at a future meeting. So that's the first issue. The other one is a public meeting to present details related to the proposed disposition of land being part of a vacant parcel of land off of First Brook Line Road. And the meeting also allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to council making a decision. And I now declare this to be a public meeting, open public meeting, and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the details of the proposed disposition on First Brook Line Road. Logan, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor Kidd. As Mayor Kidd stated, that the city did receive an application from Fred and Carmen McEwen for the purchase of a vacant parcel of land located off First Brook Line Road, which is parcel 5447 NND. The applicants own 3 adjacent parcels of land in the subject area. One parcel is currently for residential and commercial purposes, and the other 2 parcels are vacant and are designated for farm use. The applicants are seeking to purchase the parcel for contiguous ownership for the creation of an access to their adjoining properties from First Brook Line Road. The next slide outlines the subject area in relation to the applicant's properties. The next slide just outlines the process in accordance with the disposition of land bylaw number 2015-160. In accordance with section 3, which is the disposal method, staff recommends the direct disposition to the owners, or which are the applicants for the property. Section 4 is the determination of value. Staff recommends the price be based on an appraisal to determine fair market value plus all associated costs. Public notice for the proposed disposition was provided in accordance with the bylaw, 2 weeks rotation in the city bulletin, as well as posted on the city's website. The subject property is designated rural areas in the City of Temiskaming Shores official plan and is zoned rural in the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw. The city's planner recommended that the properties merge on title by ensuring the property is transferred to the same name as the adjacent property, as the applicants indicated the proposed use will be for access to the adjacent properties. We also received legal confirmation that the city would maintain municipal ownership for the portion of First Brook Line Road that runs through the property, if you notice that with the aerial image shown previously. Then prior to the notice, there was no public comments have been received to date on this application, and there were also no concerns from staff who are supportive of the requests. For the next steps, which are also conditional on public input, an appraisal would be ordered to determine fair market value for the property. And if this value is agreeable to the applicant, an administrative report recommending a purchase and sale agreement would be brought to council for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. Are there any members of the public that would want to speak to this issue or make comments? If they're put their comments in the chat box, or is there anything so far, Shelley?
Sorry, I'm just looking here. Seeing none so far.
Okay. Questions from members of council tonight? Concerns, comments? Seeing here none. So if there's no other comments come in the last minute or two, I guess we'll declare this public meeting to be closed, and the council will give due consideration to this application as well. Then we'll move on to number 3, another vacant parcel of land on a laneway and part of Nugget Street. And the purpose of this public meeting is to present to council and to the public details related to proposed disposition of land being a portion of a laneway adjacent to 155 Cross Lake Road and Nugget Street. And the meeting also allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to council making the decision. So I now declare this to be an open public meeting and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the details of the proposed disposition on this one. Logan?
Thank you, Mayor Kidd. So as stated, the city received an application from Brad Sauvé to purchase a portion of an adjacent laneway to have contiguous ownership, property ownership for residential use and for the construction of a garage. The request was reviewed by staff as well as brought to the Corporate Services Committee on May 19th of this year. The committee supported the disposition, which would be with the condition that it was upon the sale of Nugget Street as well. Nugget Street is currently a traveled road which is maintained year-round by the city. Upon disposition, the city would stop up and close this road and city maintenance would cease. The applicant owns 155 Cross Lake Road, which is adjacent to Nugget Street, and the owners travel this road to access the property. So future maintenance would become the responsibility of the purchaser. The next slide outlines an aerial image of the property, which outlines Nugget Street in its entirety, as well as the portion of the lanes, as well as a portion of the laneway, which is adjacent to 155 Cross Lake Road. So you could see the property lines are somewhat skewed in this image, but you could see the house and the rear where he's looking to construct a garage. Next slide. In accordance with the disposition of land bylaw 2015-160, for the recommended disposal method, it would be direct disposition to the applicant. For the determination of value for the portion of the laneway, based on previous sales of laneways, we recommend a purchase price of $500 plus all associated costs, which would include a reference plan. Nugget Street, we recommend that the city pay all reasonable legal fees as well as the associated registration costs, since the disposition was at the request of the city. In accordance with Section 6, the public meeting notice was provided via the community or the city bulletin as well as on the website. And a notice was also mailed to the neighboring property owner, which is located at 163 Cross Lake Road, which was directly north of Nugget Street. Additional information, 155 Cross Lake Road is designated residential neighborhood in the City of Temiskaming Shores official plan, as well as zoned as medium density residential in the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw. The proposed detached garage would be a permitted accessory use in this zone. In 2019, a deeming bylaw was adopted, which included the 2 lots on which the house is located, as well as the lot across the laneway. A deeming bylaw, therefore, a deeming bylaw would not be required should the purchase request be approved. It was also noted that there was no municipal services within Nugget Street or on the applicable portion of the laneway. And as a general comment, it was also noted that there was a ditch that runs parallel to Cross Lake Road, in which if the sale was approved, that the city would continue to maintain this ditch. To date, there have been no public comments that have been received, as well as no concerns noted from staff who are supportive of the request. The next steps, which would be conditional upon public input, would be the ordering of a survey to legally describe the portion of the subject laneway, the adoption of a stop up and close bylaw for the portion of the laneway as well as Nugget Street, and an administration report recommending the purchase and sale agreement at a subsequent meeting.
Thanks, Logan. Are there any members of the public that want to speak to this issue tonight there? And if there are, if you want to use the chat box and come on and make comments, we'll come back to you in a second there, and we'll ask the council if they've got any concerns or any questions at this point. Nothing from council, no comments. Anything on the chat box or?
Seeing none, Mayor Kim.
Nothing there, so I guess if there's no other questions at all tonight, we'll now declare this part of the public meeting to be closed, and the council will give due consideration to this application at a future date as well. So, and we'll move on to item number 8, the question and answer period. The first one, is there any questions at this point from the public?
Not so far.
Not so far. So, well, if nothing else, we'll move into our presentation for tonight. It's from Mark Andres Therian, the Vice President of Whiskey Jack Beer Company. And Mark, if you want to, and maybe Luke's there as well. So welcome. So the floor is all yours, and welcome your presentation.
Good evening, Your Worship and the respected councillors. My name is Luke Johnson, President of Whiskey Jack Beer Company, and with me is
Marc-André Therian, Vice President of Whiskey Jack Beer Company.
We would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to address council. We will endeavor to keep it brief. What you have before you is a request to allow us to build a pergola on a section of our outdoor patio that is leased property from the city. You may have noticed that construction was commenced prior to this meeting, and we wish to apologize for that. It was not our intention to circumvent the process. There was unfortunately some miscommunication between ourselves and city staff, which has since been addressed. If our request is approved, we will work closely with the city to ensure compliance with all local and provincial regulations. As outlined in the package before you, it speaks to numerous benefits that this NOHFC funded project will bring to ourselves and the area. If we can just take 1 minute to review the package and the benefits for you. It provides a welcoming, visually appealing patio. Walking customers are more encouraged to attend our premise with the pergola as opposed to without. Aside from that obvious curb appeal and ambience that it provides, it also has economic benefits. The structure provides us with a way to hang speakers for ambiance, heaters, which will of course lengthen our season and lengthen our days as well. Something which we value tremendously given these difficult times. Our project will also help with the beautification of downtown Hilleberry. It'll bring tourism in, which as you may know, our business is largely dependent on. So we also have attached a letter from our neighbor supporting this project. We hope that you do give it due consideration and support us as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luke. Just to go back a step there, I think when we looked at the initial lease of that laneway to you, I think one of the conditions was that it'd be a temporary patio going into there that we could sort of a moment's notice go in and do locate and then be able to dig that, either the water line or the hydro lines up and be able to get at that property very quickly. So I'm a little concerned when you start talking about a fairly permanent pergola in there that's probably going to take a day or two to tear down again if we ever had to go in there and tear it down. So that was just one of my comments I had, and I'll let the rest of council comment as well if they want there.
May I address that concern?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Luke. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you, Your Worship, for that comment. And it was something that was considered in our planning phase of this pergola. We do understand that there is a very real need to access the utilities. And we would not in any way hinder that. The floor, the base of our design is it's bricks. They're very easy to dig up. Our entrance does provide for maybe a small mini excavator to get in. The height of the pergola is 10 feet, which doesn't detract from the ability to dig the area. We would of course prefer some notice to minimize damage, but with discussions, we are in agreement that if emergency needs arise and you require immediate access, we will bear all costs associated with that access.
Okay, thank you. Councilor MacArthur, you had a comment?
Yes, well, thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for investing into the former town of Halebury and Temiskaming Shores. And from what you just tell me, what I was told and understood to be told, that your patio was a little too high or it was over the regulations, but that has, I guess, Mike Pilon and Shelley Zubik are happy with the outcome now, and we're moving on.
I thank you for that, Your Worship. I thank you for Mr. MacArthur's comment. And he is absolutely correct that we have been in discussions with your wonderful staff, Ms. Zubik and Mr. Pilon. There were some issues and we are willing to address them and do some slight modifications in order to be compliant.
Thank you.
Like we're probably dealing with two laneways, the one across the road as well there, which is basically still a gravel surface and some little bit of wood structure at the back of that driveway and the laneway, I should say. So, but yours is a little more elaborate there, so council's going to have to discuss that. Any other comments from councilor at this point? Councilor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kidd. Thanks for coming to sit with council and make your presentation. I do have a couple of concerns, though, in that in your letter you say that it would be removable with reasonable notice. yeah, believe me, in operating the city, when an emergency strikes, there's no such thing as reasonable notice. Presidents expect you to be there on site the moment it happens. So reasonable notice just doesn't work. I also have serious concerns in that somewhere in the package it's mentioned about being against fire code, and now we're hanging heaters from it. What kind of heaters are these?
You want to address that?
Mayor Kidd, thank you. If I can answer Mr. Whalen's answer. The concern for the accessibility, first of all the major utilities are still accessible without even touching the pergola. That's the way we designed it, all around it, without obstructing most of it. Any just major renovations or major construction would need removal of structure or the ground. And that's also doable with, well, worst case, we just dig it up with the, if it has to go with an emergency, it's an emergency. We already considered that risk, that financial risk. And the, and the heaters are all compliant with electrical ESA compliant. So they're only 240 volts. Hung with a regular electrical cord that you would have at your home. They're also easy removable with just a couple hooks, a couple minutes of work, and it's removed from the area.
We did have Jody Aitchison come in and do a load test, and he knows everything will be done as properly as per code regulations. There's no concern with that.
Answer your questions there, Councilor Whalen?
Yeah, that'll do. I just, I'd like to know how much staff time has been taken up with this, at $1,200 for a yearly rental. Sometimes it seems it's not even worth going through the process, but yeah, my questions were answered. Thanks.
Other questions, Councilor Gelling?
Yeah, my concern is liability. I understand that you're saying we can go in and knock it down and go in if we have to. That's all fine and good. They certainly won't be going in with mini excavators if it's a major occurrence. They'll be going in with high hose and moving it. I have a great deal of concern. Should your structure impede in any way, it's the city's insurance that are going to have to cover it. It's city property that you're on. So in my opinion, we're opening ourselves up for some liability. In order to convince me that this is a go, I would have to see a report from our city staff endorsing this and with everything laid out in there, signed off by you people. It's great to go in and knock down your thing. If we damage your building or we damage the building next door knocking it down, it's our insurance is probably going to get called. So before I could even consider this, I would need to see a report from our building inspector and our staff telling me that that's okay.
Your worship, I wish to thank Councillor Jelly for that concern. As far as the insurance goes, it's my understanding that in the lease agreement, we do have the city of Temiskaming Shores additionally insured on that property. We are, of course, amenable to, for lack of a better term, jump through any hoops that is required to minimize any liability or reduce it entirely. I'm not sure what that would entail, but we are agreeable to working hand in hand to ensure that happens.
If I might, your worship, thanks for that. Thanks for that response. I agree what your lease said, but your lease was based on a patio that was originally going to be out of wood. And now it's got block, which is kind of indifferent. But I mean, that was based on the first lease. This is totally a different structure that you're talking about. So again, I mean, I'd like to see a report from our staff saying that we're okay with this and that it's not going to, like you said, perhaps some more insurance coverage will be necessary. But we're the ones with the the deep pockets and the big insurance policies should something happen, and that scares me a little bit. As far as getting permission from next door, that's fine. That's a great neighbor to have from next door. If a fire should start there and damage next door, their insurance company may have a little concern too. But anyways, that's not our concern. That's with you guys. So, but I would still need to see a report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? Comments? Councilor Foley.
Yeah, so after this presentation, was staff going to do a report for us? I'm not 100% sure I know they're doing the presentation and showing what's going on, but are we getting some options from staff on this, or?
I think at this point, we can either pass a motion tonight denying the request, or we can organize a special council meeting maybe next Tuesday and ask council or ask staff at that point to provide that staff report before next Tuesday and deal with this again at a special council meeting. So that'll be up to yourselves there tonight as to how you want to vote to proceed on this matter. So, Councilor MacArthur?
Yes, well, does Mike Pilon or Shelley have a comment to make tonight about what we've heard?
Yes, I do. There's concerns that were not brought up yet. The proposed construction is in a laneway, and immediately adjacent to the laneway, there's the dwelling to the north is constructed of wood. It has unprotected openings, windows, and the construction of what's defined as a designated structure under building code would not pass inspection because of a limiting distance for danger of fire. Normally, there's not unprotected openings on the side of a dwelling, and the building code allows that to happen because there's to be no construction in a laneway, and it lets you move the lot line to an imaginary line to the center of the laneway because nobody's ever going to build in a road. So the proposal to build a designated structure against that building, especially out of combustible material, would never pass building code. So there's serious concerns with setbacks on the side. I met the applicants on site, and there was mention that if it was not a designated structure as a fence, it would not be regulated by the building code. Therefore, liability would be removed from the municipality for a fence. But as a pergola, any structure, any designated structure, structure above 108 square feet would not comply with the building code near that building.
Luke, you want to respond to that comment?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yes, in response to Mr. Pilon's comment, he would be correct in saying that, however, if you look at the package in front of you, you'll notice some drawings. There were some amendments done to the planning which removed the structure from the building in order to comply with the fire code. So if you look at the drawing, you'll see that the pergola does not extend beyond the center line, as mentioned by Mr. Pilon. It gets changed to a fence on the neighbor's side in order to be compliant, as well as cladded on the backside. One correction I did want to make was that the structure next door is a block, cement block structure, which is vinyl clad. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but the windows obviously are important. Therefore, we will be removing the structure as such to create that fire separation.
So it does make a difference if it's not wood construction, but we're assuming the limiting distance has been taken to the center of the laneway, and calculations would have to be done for. It's a calculation in the building code for the maximum percentage of unprotected openings in a ratio to the size of the wall, and the limiting distance may well be beyond the center. I don't know. I haven't done the calculations, so we have to be careful in that respect. So If it was to fly, there would have to be a plan design from a professional engineer, and he would have to provide us with calculations saying that any designated structures would not compromise the limiting distance of both buildings, actually.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, Mark.
If I can comment on Mr. Pilon. As we discussed and like he mentioned, this is exactly why we're here at this process. We were having a full structure and then we stopped. And then when we discussed with city staff, with them, we're now at redesigning, tearing down the fact that there's a structure close to the building, putting up a fence. And now we're asking to move forward with the new design and to then move forward with designing it with an engineer drawing.
Councillor Jelly?
I would suggest then that we put this off until all these things are straightened out. If we need to have a special meeting next week, so be it. If we need some information from a professional engineer, I don't know how quick that can be done. Hopefully quick. I mean, I certainly understand the predicament you gentlemen are in, and hopefully it could be resolved. But I think until we have that report and those assurances, I anyways personally cannot agree with what's going on until I see a report from our staff.
I think at this point, we passed a bylaw to allow the lease on that laneway, consider it strictly going to be a open patio, possibly with umbrellas, whatever. I think at this point, we can vote on the matter whether we want to decline the request at this point. If we do vote against declining the request at this point, then we can ask staff to provide additional information and hold a special council meeting to look at how we're going to address the issue. So I think I'll read the motion and we can have a recorded vote on that. And if it's denied, then we've settled the issue tonight. If not, then we'll bring the issue back to a special council meeting. So I got a motion, whereas representatives from Whiskey Jack Beer Company Limited submitted a request to amend their lease agreement with the city to permit the construction of a pergola on a portion of a laneway located adjacent to 485 Ferguson Avenue. Be it resolved, the council for the city of Twisting Shores hereby declines the request, amended bylaw 2020-065 to permit the construction of a pergola on the city-owned land. So if everybody understands the motion, I'll ask the clerk for a recorded vote.
Sorry, Your Honor, could you read that? Sorry, I missed, I cut out a little bit there. If you could read that again.
Whereas representatives from Whiskey Jack Beer Company Limited submitted a request to amend their lease agreement with the city to permit the construction of a pergola on a portion of a laneway located adjacent to 485 Ferguson Avenue, and be it resolved, the council for the city of Twisting Shores hereby declines the request amended to amend bylaw 2020-065 to permit the construction of a pergola on city-owned lands. Logan, if you want
to. Did council want to? There was. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Kidd, Patricia, or Councillor Hewitt just had a question.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Hewitt.
Yeah, just in accordance with the resolution, could we not alter that now to further support discussion with staff in regards to the fire code and just soften it up so that we can still move forward and have that potential. Obviously, there may be some alterations to be done, but would that not speed up the process somewhat?
But if we vote against declining this motion tonight, then we would go back and request staff to provide additional information and go through more discussion about it and bring it back to a special meeting of council at a later date. So that's sort of the two options. Do we want to deal with it tonight?
I understand. Yeah, so, no, I understand that. I just thought perhaps that that might be presented in the resolution as well.
Yeah, I don't know how we'd amend the motion at this point without having all the other additional information that we would be requesting from staff. So
Mayor Kidd, if I may.
Go ahead.
So if council wishes to have staff return with an admin report or with a recommendation, you could also just recognize this evening's presentation and provide direction to staff to prepare a report to be presented at a special meeting of council, whether that be next Tuesday, June the 22nd, or at a date that would be at council's convenience as well.
Councilor Jelly?
Yes, I would certainly be in favor of that other than the motion. I mean, that does sound like an attempt to stop it, which, I mean, we're stopping it anyways to get a report back, but let's get the report back and then make our decision. I don't think it's our desire to decline the lease of the patio part of it to start with. It's to deal with the pergola or whatever type of structure can be above ground there if indeed anything can. So I think if we just defer this for this evening and have it brought back at a special meeting with more information, then we can make a decision. My opinion.
Do you want to make that motion, Councilor Jelly?
I certainly would, yes.
Do we have a seconder for that motion to defer this for additional staff input? Councilor MacArthur? Any further discussion on the amendment? Councilor Hewitt?
I was just going to say I'll second that, absolutely.
Okay, Councilor McCarthy's on that. So any further discussion at this point? If not, we'll call a vote. All in favor of deferring this motion to a later date, and we'll set up another special council meeting for it. Councilor Whalen, you're in favor or opposed?
Sorry, I'd be opposed to that.
Okay, so we've got four votes in favor, you and I against. So we have the vote will be carried that we will defer this for another special council meeting, and we'll have to set that date up amongst council to see when we're available, and we'll ask staff to provide as much input on that issue as well. So I thank you very much, Mark and Luke there. Appreciate you coming on board tonight there, and we'll discuss this tomorrow. We've got a couple of committee meetings coming up as well, so we'll maybe discuss it at committee levels as well. And we'll get back to you in the next week or two.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 10, communications. 10A is a letter from Carol Schofield, the manager of legislative services clerk for the town of Fort Erie. That's regarding capital gains tax on the primary residence received on June the 1st. For information, another letter from Carol Schofield, manager, legislative services clerk for the town of Fort Erie, looking for support of the corporation of the town of Perth resolution, provincial hospital funding for major capital equipment received on June the 1st as well. For information. 10C is a letter from Danny Whalen, president of Phenom, regarding the media release for the transition of the Blue Box program from the municipalities to the producers, and that was received on June the 3rd. For information. 10D is a letter from Twisting, or actually financial statements from the Twisting Health Unit for the 2020 audited financial statements received on June the 4th. For information. 10E is a letter from Stasia Carr, the CEO clerk for the town of Gore Bay, regarding the lottery licensing to assist small organizations. That's received for information. 10F, a letter from the Share the Roads Cycling Coalition regarding the bicycle friendly communities feedback report received in May 2021 for information. So, and lastly, the letter from myself regarding the Ontario Northland support letter that I drafted up to be sent to John Vantoff, MVP Temiskaming Cochrane. So that's all the correspondence. I got a motion moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Whalen. Be it resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A to 10G according to the agenda references. So, any comments? Anything you want brought back, Councilor Jelly?
No, I just have a comment. I just want to recognize Phenom and Councilor Whalen for their work and on the Blue Box program. This has been a long time talking, Danny, and it's nice to see that something's been achieved here, and we can look forward to. We certainly won't see it in this term of council, but it'll be worked on, and it's great that the North is included. Thank you.
I think some of the municipalities will be going through that procedure in 2023. I think we're scheduled for 2025, if I'm not mistaken, Councilor Whalen. Yes, Councilor
One
Whalen.
of the reasons there's been a staggered implementation was actually at the request of the working group on behalf of municipalities, because many of them had locked-in contracts where they would have paid significant penalties to break those contracts for their service provider. Or if their contract expired while this working group was in place, it allowed them to put in an opt-out clause where there would be no financial penalties. So that's the main reason for the staggered implementation. Another significant move forward is the fact that whether you're in Temiskaming Shores or the City of London, you're going to be recycling exactly the same items. So there'd be no confusion over, can I recycle this? Can I not recycle that? So it's a big move forward. It's going to be significant savings. I believe $156 million for municipalities per year. So it's good news.
I think Mac Bain's been on that steering committee now for what, 6-7 years there, Danny. So he's done a lot of work in this over the years there as well.
Yeah, it was just starting when I got involved with Phenom about 10 years ago. So yeah, it's been a long process.
Okay. So good. Any other comments on the correspondence? If not, is there anybody opposed to that motion? Be it resolved, the City Council agrees to deal with communication item 10A through 10G according to the agenda references. Anybody opposed to that motion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll consider that one carried. There's no committees of council, community, or regional tonight. Item number 12 is the committees of council for the internal departments. I got a motion moved by Councillor Foley, second by Councillor MacArthur. Be it resolved, the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting held on May the 10th, 2021. B, the minutes of the Building Maintenance Committee meeting held on May the 19th, 2021. C is the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on May the 19th as well, 2021. As well as the minutes of the Protection of the Person and Property Committee meeting held on May the 19th, 2021, and also the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting held on the 19th. So any comments on those 5 sets of minutes? Councillor Foley?
Yeah, mine was in regards to the Building Maintenance Committee, new business, future plans of the New Liskeard Marina, and possibly having a committee of the whole meeting to discuss the future plans of New Liskeard Marina. I'm just wondering if we have any idea of when we might discuss that as a council or as a committee of the whole.
I don't know. Logan, you maybe know more than I do on this. So
thank you. Thank you, Mayor Kidd. As Chris Osland and Matt Bain and I spoke about that, and we were tentatively looking at July 27th for a committee of the whole meeting. So once that's confirmed, we'll certainly set the date and provide notice as well.
okay, thank you. So we'll keep that date open there. And any other comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? So that one carried. Any reports from members of council tonight? Well, Councillor Whalen.
Not so much a report, but since we have 3 council members that are also board members of the Temiskaming Health Unit, I just, my wife Suzanne and I just recently had our 2nd dose of the vaccine, and I just want to congratulate the health unit on the work they've done on this vaccine clinic, and that has been second to none. And one of the reasons the case count is so low in Temiskaming is because of our health unit and people following the health unit's advice. So I just wanted to say congratulations.
Yeah, our acting medical health officer has done a great job. He's actually done a video there to send out some of the high school kids as well, so they can encourage them to get more of the shots and answer some of their questions as well. So he's done a great job over the last year and a half there as well. And I know the city's pleased that we could offer the New Liskeard Arena there to go in there and set up permanently until the end of August. So they're having a lot of walk-in clinics as well as actually scheduled and appointments there. So I think there is a little bit of hesitancy going on there now. As getting a little tougher and tougher to book everything solid, but there's still a lot of people coming in. So I think they've done a great job. So thank you, Councillor Whalen. So Any other reports or members of council? Councillor Foley?
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know that that bike exchange it was actually moved back to June 19th, which is this Saturday. I think we have 70 bikes that are available, first come, first serve, and then there's about another 30 which are parts only. So you guys hurry up and get your bikes quick.
This is for next year's ride to the council chamber. So, Councillor LaFerrier.
Thanks, Your Worship. Your Worship, I did receive a complaint, which I did forward on to the Transit Committee, as well as made Chris aware. And it came from a concerned citizen with the change in the route. And it's causing some challenges with their house shaking. And I know that the Transit Committee is going to be dealing with that. The concern I have is if it's not resolved at the Transit Committee, this resident is really concerned about the damage it's going to do to the foundation because of the amount of shaking in the home. And I just wanted to make sure from a liability perspective that, it may be something that comes back to council.
This in Hillsbury or in Nilisquil or in Hillsbury?
It is in Hillsbury, Your Worship.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor MacArthur?
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up. This was discussed today at our transit meeting, and we did have a presentation from a Hillsbury resident about that particular stop. We had put a survey out and asked the public about different stops, and we added, we subtracted, but this one is a new ball of wax, and we are going to be looking at it. The committee is going to be going back and seeing what we can do. Mitch is going to be helping us out, and nothing is in concrete today, but we did promise the presenter that we would definitely review it and look at the whole situation. So we'll be coming back with a verdict on that one for sure.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other reports? I know I listened into a bit of a webinar yesterday put on by Northern Policy Institute, and they brought in a fellow from Stats Canada and sort of looked at some of the numbers and how they use the survey numbers when they do the census collection every 4 years. Everybody seems to be quite curious to see what kind of results we're getting out. They'll be issued this fall there, so I sort of look forward to the Stats Canada report and the census reports that come out this fall. So we'll wait and see what kind of numbers we have there, whether our numbers are going up or down, or just how people are moving to the north. So it'll be interesting to see that come fall. So if there's no other reports, is there any notice of motion tonight? If not, we'll move into new business. 15A is Amendment 024 2021 CS. Amendment to Bylaw 2019-139, the FedNor Agreement for the Culinary Tourism Strategy. I get a motion moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Whalen. Be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 024 2021 CS, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend Bylaw number 2019-139 as amended regarding the culinary tourism strategy for the Lake Temiskaming Tour, for consideration at the June 15th, 2021 regular council meeting later tonight. So, any comments? Anybody oppose this motion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll consider them carried. 15B is Administrative Report CS 026 2021, the ZBA 2021-03 for 52 Jaffrey Street. And then I got a motion moved by Councillor LaFerrier, second by Councillor Hewitt. Be resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administrative Report CS 026 2021. The Council agrees to amend the provisions of the City of Temiskaming Zoning Bylaw 2017-154 to permit the zone change from Highway Commercial C2 to Highway Commercial Exception 5. And the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaws to amend the City of Temiskaming Shores Zoning Bylaw 2017-154 for consideration at the June 15th, 2021 regular meeting later tonight as well. So, any comments? Anybody oppose this motion? We'll consider that one carried. 15C is Administrative Report CS 027 2021, the Tender Award for Cultivation Lease Agreements. I got a motion moved by Councillor Foley, second by Councillor MacArthur. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge the receipt of Administrative Report CS 027-2021. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Richard Forbes for the cultivation of land near Mill Creek area for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular council meeting. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Alexander Farms as well for the cultivation of land near the municipal sewage lagoons in Diamond for consideration at June 15, 2021 regular council meeting tonight as well. So any comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? Consider that one carried. 15D, Administrative Report PW 015-2021, the tender award for the rental of graders for next winter. Motion moved by Councilor Ferrier, second by Councilor Hewitt. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 015-2021. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Jade Equipment for the supply and delivery of 3 rental graders for the city's winter operations for 2021-2022 in the amount of $92,400 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular meeting later tonight as well. So any comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? Seeing none, we'll consider that one carried as well.
Bring on the snow.
We're getting things ready there. Make sure all the equipment's all ready and everything else. So 15E, Administrative Report PW 016-2021, tender award for the engineering investigation of some couple of our bridges. I got a motion moved by Councilor Whalen, second by Councilor Jelly. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 016-2021. The council agrees to increase the budget amount for the engineering inspections from $20,000 to $21,866, and the council agrees to reallocate $1,866 from the decorative street light capital project, originally budgeted at $75,000 and not yet tendered, in order to fund the revised budget amount for bridge inspections. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter in an agreement with DM Wills Associates Limited for supply and delivery of a report for 2 bridges, one on Moat Landing Road Bridge and the other in Golf Course Road on the East Bridge, in the amount of $21,488 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular council meeting. Any comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? We'll consider that one carried as well. And 15F, Administrative Report PW 017-2021, the tender award for light duty truck. And a motion moved by Councilor MacArthur, second by Councilor Ferrier. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 017-2021. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Wilson Chevrolet Oldsmobile for supply and delivery of 1 light duty pickup truck in the amount of $36,074.25 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular meeting tonight as well. So, any comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? We'll consider that one carry as well. And 15G, Administrative Report PW 018-2021, the tender award for the street lights on up in Grant Drive. I have a motion moved by Councilor Jelly, second by Councilor Whalen. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 018-2021. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance for the supply and installation of street lights on Grant Drive in the amount of $118,500 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular council meeting later tonight as well. Any comments? Anybody opposed? We'll consider that motion carried. Second last bylaw motion, Administrative Report PW 019-2021, the tender award for the warning sign and lights on Bradley Hill train crossing. I got a motion moved by Councilor MacArthur, second by Councilor Hewitt. Be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 019-2021. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance for the supply and installation of a warning sign and lights at the Bradley Hill crossing in the amount of $41,275 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15, 2021 regular council meeting tonight as well. So, any comments, discussion? Anybody opposed to this motion? Seeing and hearing none, move on to the last one, item number J. Administrative Report RS 012-2021, the Hillbury Fire Hall Advocate RFP Award. And I got a motion moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Foley. Be resolved that Council for the City of Twisting Shores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 012-2021. And the council directs staff to prepare a necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Shaba Testing Services Limited for advocate architect services related to the construction of the Nilisquid Fire Station in the amount of $38,880 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the June 15th, 2021 regular council meeting as well. So, comments? Anybody opposed to this motion? Consider that motion carried. We'll move on to item number 16, the bylaws. And I got a motion moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Hewitt. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-092, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-154 to rezone 52 Jaffrey Street from highway commercial C2 to highway commercial exception 5, zone to add a light industrial use as an additional permitted use on the property. Bylaw 2021-093, being a bylaw to authorize a land lease agreement with Rick Forbes to permit the use of municipal land for cultivation purposes for historic cemetery area. Bylaw 2021-094, being a bylaw to authorize a land lease agreement with Alexander Farms to permit the use of municipal land for cultivation purposes around the Nilisquid Diamond wastewater lagoon area. Bylaw 2021-095, being a bylaw to enter into an rental agreement with Jade Equipment Company Limited for the short-term rental of 1 tandem drive motor grader and 2 6-wheel drive graders. Bylaw 2021-096, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with DM Wells Associates Limited for the engineering investigation report for 2 bridges. Bylaw 2021-097, being a bylaw to enter into a purchase agreement with Wilson Chevrolet Limited for the supply and delivery of 1 Chevrolet light duty truck. Bylaw 2021-098, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance for the supply and installation of the street lights along Grant Drive. Bylaw 2021-099, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance for the supply and installation of the warning sign and lights for the Radley Hill Railway Crossing. Bylaw 2021-100, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Shaba Testing Services Limited for advocate architect services for the construction of the new Hillbury Fire Station. And lastly, 2021-101, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-139 to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Canada, as represented by the Ministry of Industry, FEDNOR, to implement a culinary tourism strategy for the Lake Temiskaming Tour, Project 851-512-497. These bylaws be hereby introduced, given first and second reading. So, any comments on these bylaws? Anybody opposed to this point? So that one carried. Motion moved by Councillor Foley, second by Councillor Jelly. Be resolved that bylaw 2021-092, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, and 101 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Last chance for comment. Anybody opposed? Councillor LaFerrier.
No, it's good. It's actually, I just wanted to say something after this motion is passed. That's all, Worship.
Okay, no. Okay, we'll consider that motion carried. And we'll schedule meetings. Our next one set up for July the 13th. And we're into a question and answer period. So Jeff, you can make your comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all of those firefighters that responded and the frontline workers that responded to the fire in Hillbury last week. You know, it was amazing to see how quickly they got the fire under control. And I just wanted to say thank you. It really goes a long way to protecting the residents in our community. So.
And we got all 3 fire stations working together in that fire there, an extremely hot day. So they did a great job controlling that fire. There's a whole pile of wood behind it and on that lot there as well. So it could have been a major disaster there too. So, question, Councillor Jelly.
I just wanted to point out to Councillor Ferrier, we have a protection of persons property meeting tomorrow. The fire chief will be there, so we certainly will pass this message along to them. So that it gets back to the staff. But yes, they did a great job.
Any other questions? Anybody in the chat line there, Shelley? Questions?
No, I'm not seeing any tonight.
Nothing tonight. Any other questions, comments from councilors? So, if not, we have no closed session. We're confirming bylaw. Moved by Council Whalen, second by Council Ferrier, be it resolved the bylaw 2021-102 being a bylaw to confirm certain proceedings of the council of the corporation of the city of Temiskaming Shores for the regular meeting held on June the 15th, 2021 be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. Anybody oppose that motion? We'll consider that one carried. And lastly, be it resolved the bylaw 2021-102 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed to is moved by Councilor Jelly, second by Councilor Foley. So anybody oppose that motion? We'll consider that one carried. And last motion, moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor MacArthur, be it resolved that City Council agrees to adjourn at 7:05. So anybody opposed? That motion's carried. There's no hockey game to rush to tonight, Mike.
Viva Las Vegas.
We